There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community. Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out. Slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community. Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah. When we unite. Yeah, yeah. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Yes, indeed, my loves. You are welcome here on this Halloween day. Also, Samhain, also Dia de los Muertos. And I imagine you are here with me, Miss Esmeralda, to find your fortune. So I will look and see. I can see that you have been through some trying times. I can see that there has been transition, that there has been danger and intrigue and great fear. Let me look again. What do I see in your future? The ancestors, the spirits, the gods, they tell me that everything is going to be okay. Yes, that's what it says. Everything is going to be okay in the end, of course. And if it's not okay, then it's not the end. What a great message. You are indeed welcome here. Oof, and it's hot up in here. I'm not Esmeralda, but Reverend Cindy Grimes with Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. It's not a great hair day, but hey, here I am. And welcome to you all. That was fun. Yes, everything is indeed going to be okay. If it's not okay, everything's okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. And that's what we know to be true. And so let me share with you a little bit about who we are at the Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. Welcome. The number one thing on our list at CSL Ocala is spiritual growth and practice. That is the reason that we come together as a community, is to learn and to grow together. We're all teachers and we're all here learning on the spiritual path. And I'm just grateful to be the person who happens to lead this community, one of the leaders. We value love. We believe that love is the essence of who we are, what we're about, and what we're here to live and to share and to spread in our world. We value appreciation. That is, we believe that the things that we appreciate and what we hold dear to us, what we have gratitude for, only continues to grow in our awareness and experience. We value this thing called community. That's like your tribe, your people, I believe, and we believe, that we all need that place to go where we can really be ourselves, that place that we call our people, our tribe. And sometimes it's family, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's your family of choice. And we hope that's what we are at CSL Ocala for the people that are part of our community. We value freedom. That's freedom to create, freedom to express, freedom to be who we came here to be. We value creativity and all the fun that goes with that, and seeing new things, and kind of living on the edge of new paradigms and new things coming into life. We value health and wholeness on every level. That's health of the body, health of the mind, health and wellness of the emotions, and our financial well-being, which speaks to valuing generosity and financial well-being. And so what else do I want to share with you here about here we go, where is it? I'm producing myself today. Here we go. Our vision at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is that we are a model center for spiritual living, as evidenced by the transformational impact we have on our spiritual community, on the larger CSL organization, and on the community at large. And our mission is to empower individuals to awaken to the power and presence that lies within and all around them, so they may live their best lives. In other words, we believe that we are all made of God's stuff. Each one of us is a living, breathing expression of that larger thing that we may call God, universe, source, whatever name you give it, doesn't matter as far as we're concerned. So, a little bit more, fix this hair a little bit. So what we're talking about this month at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is the work of Valerie Kaur, and See No Stranger is the name of her book. The Revolutionary Love Project is the study that has evolved from that book. And this month in October, we're still talking about what it means to love ourselves. And that's what Valerie's talking about, this idea of seeing no stranger is love. It is that agape love. It's the beloved community kind of love of Martin Luther King, of Nelson Mandela, of loving everyone, of loving others, of loving our so-called opponents, and loving ourselves. And so this month we've been talking about loving ourselves. And the analogy that Valerie uses is the birth analogy. So in loving ourselves, we start with this idea of taking time to breathe, right? To just be able to rest, you know, in where we are with whatever is going on. And God knows there's been so much going on for all of us in this pandemic time. And so the first thing is to breathe. The next thing, which is where we are right now, is to push, using that birth analogy, right? It's breathing, it's pushing and transitioning. But we alternate breathing and pushing, breathing and pushing, breathing and pushing. So for October, again, we've been talking about pushing. And specifically today, I want to talk about what it means to push ourselves into new levels of expression, of being, of awareness, and how that relates to compassion and boundaries. But before I bring in my friends to have this wonderful discussion, these two beautiful ladies who, the title of the talk today, I think, is called "On Becoming a Boundary Boss." And these two ladies, for me, exemplify what that is, to understand what it means to set boundaries for ourselves and to be a so-called boundary boss. But so anyway, before we do that, though, I'm going to go ahead and do an invocation. So I'm going to invite everybody that's listening right now to just take a moment and take a nice deep breath and feel your body begin to relax into the chair. And take another deep breath and feel yourself relax even more. Just release any tension that might be in your body, in your neck, in your shoulders, in your torso, your legs. Just let it all run out. Just let any tension flow out of your body, and anchor to your seat and know that you are safe and you are well right where you sit. And as we breathe again, our minds are free to be and to just imagine. And so I give thanks for this time that we have here together, for the listening, for the wisdom, for the sharing, for the authenticity that happens in this conversation today, because I just affirm and know that it serves to uplift each and every one of us, that we are all teachers, that we are all learners, and that we are here to find even better ways with more grace and with ease to live into the fullness of who we are, to create the boundaries that are necessary for us to show up in all of our beauty, in all of our faults, in all of our glory, in all of our humanness. And I just affirm that our time together here has been well spent for those of us who are speaking on the panel and for all those who are listening. And I just pray that the seeds that are planted in here in mind and in heart, that the good seed grows and expands in awareness, and that it serves to better the lives of each one here and every life we touch. And so I release these words with joy and with gratitude for all that we're to learn and all that we're to share. And just know that everything is unfolding in its perfect and right divine order. I release these words with joy and with gratitude, knowing it is already done. And so it is. All right. And so I'm going to bring in my two friends who are going to have this conversation about being a boundary boss. And that is Lida Perez. ¿Cómo está, Lida?
Lo más bien, ¿me oye bien?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Lida is a practitioner in training here at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. And I am bringing in also Norma Anderson, a current practitioner at CSL Ocala, one of the dynamic duo, Donna and Norma. Love you, ladies, so much. So thank you for joining me. I want to give a shout out to Donna, who's not feeling well, who was going to be on this call and is not able to be with us, but we're just going to send her lots of love and light and know that she's healing. And anybody else, you know, I think Richard is also not feeling well, our production guy here. So people are going through it. People are going through some stuff. So let's through it. Exactly. Through it. Thank you, Lita. We just knowing that the love and the light and peace carries us through those difficult times. So thank you for
saw
joining.
The crystal ball and saw that all is well. So
yes.
All is well.
All is well. What is it? Everything is okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's
not the end. Yes, I love that quote.
Of course, I didn't make that up. But where did that come from, Lita? Ooh.
Everything is okay. You know what? I can look it up and see.
It came from a movie.
Yes.
It came from a movie.
If it's not okay, it's not the end.
Yeah.
I'll find out.
Put this light on again. I'm working on my light. Oof, goodness. Okay. So here's why I'm so excited how everything works out the way it's supposed to, right? This week we're talking about this idea of boundaries. And when I think of women who stand in their own power, who have who seemingly to me from the outside looking in, have no problem with saying, yeah, this is it. The buck stops here. This is my boundary. You do not cross it. Period. Right? No apologies, no questions. And I have to say, I just kind of admire that. I was kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, but we will talk about all of that. So, but it's not just that, not just the strength in which you stand, but also the character that you have, the kindness, the compassion, you know, that both of you have. And I'm going to cite some research that explains how that works. Anyway, so I don't know if y'all want to say anything before I tell you about Brene Brown and that research.
Let's see. Not really. I'd like to hear Brene Brown and what you have found.
Okay. Norma, anything?
Not yet. I'm waiting
Okay.
for my time to jump in.
All right. So here's the deal. You know, Brene Brown, she's a sociologist and a researcher, and she does a lot of stuff around shame and vulnerability and that sort of thing. Everybody's
Mm.
favorite topics, right? Shame, vulnerability, fear. Ugh. and so anyway, she was doing a study on people that were compassionate, who she considered very compassionate people, and started out looking at people that were in whose vocation had something to do with religion, right? So nuns and priests and Buddhist practitioners and stuff like that, to see what was in them that allowed them to be so compassionate. And
Mm.
so she went into the research thinking that it was going to be about their spiritual orientation toward life. And it turned out that was not the key factor, that
Mm.
the key factor seemed to be their ability to know and draw their own personal boundaries, like to be very strong in knowing what's acceptable for them and what's not. And that being able to have their own boundaries and to be very clear about that allowed them to have more compassion for other people,
Mm.
because of not feeling, I guess, this is what I want to talk through with you both, because I think you're such great examples of this, um, that it holds off that feeling of resentment and anger, or burnout, all of that, when you're able to set your own boundaries, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes
Yes.
a lot of sense. Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense. And for me, I know that until I started setting boundaries, I was really tired of trying to be off for everyone, be everything and everywhere. I had that FOMO, fear of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
realized fairly soon that setting boundaries was important for my health, my mental health.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that because I know, and was quite young when I started being the do all for everyone, and I found that I never had time for me, never had time to do anything that I wanted to do, or and it just was mentally and physically draining.
um yeah, I'm still struggling with this, actually. I mean, I've learned a lot, I've come a long way, and so much of this spiritual path is really looking at your stuff, and
Mm,
how we've talked about diving into that shadows, those shadowy things.
right.
And I have come to realize more and more how my upbringing, my molding as a woman of color,
Mm,
even as a minister, has oriented me toward taking care of people, like service, always, right? So I'm not going to say always, I'm going to use that in the past tense,
mhm,
that I have had this tendency of putting other people and their needs ahead of mine. It's like once I check off, I did this, that, and the other, and almost always those things on the checklist have to do with obligations or things for other people. And after I finish all of that, then I go ahead and take care of myself. And I realize I'm realizing more and more and more as I mature, as I grow on my own spiritual path, that not only has that not served me, that it doesn't serve the people around me either.
mhm.
But it's
Yeah, I
been a
think
late
yeah.
kind of reckoning for me.
Yeah. And we
Mm.
have to switch that around and say, okay, me first, because when you take care of self, all else follows.
Because it's not
Okay.
called being selfish; it's extending self-love. And you
Self-love.
have to
Thank you, Norma.
you can't give from an empty cup. And
Whew.
the more that you tend to want to give and help and do, and whatever, that's when the resentment starts to fall in, because you don't have that me time, you don't have that self-love time, the time to sit and actually you know meditate and take care of yourself, do the things that
Hmm.
make you happy. Because I was born, I was raised in a large family. I'm the youngest of 14, and that's just on my mom's side. And everybody tend to either have me do things a lot when we were younger. Well, I was younger; they
Mm.
weren't that young, and and I was also the connector, I guess you would say, because this sister didn't like that sister, and all the other, family stuff. And I was always the one that everybody, came to. And can you tell this person? Can you do this? Can you take? It took a little bit of time for me to decipher what was mine to do and all of that, and what was not.
Hmm.
Norma, was there a turning point? Like, was there something that happened that snapped you out of it?
Well, for it started with, I think I was probably 60. Was about 3, so I was about 21, and I was always I had a good job. My then husband had a good job, and my sisters, one in particular, would always come to me and borrow money. And you know, on the first, when she got her check, I was to come by and collect my $20. And before going by there, and she also babysat CJ for me. But before going by there, Charlie and I was trying to scrape up $3 to go and rent a videotape. And we scrounged together our little pennies and change because you don't want to go to the bank to get money to rent a movie. And we scrounged up our little $3 and then rented a movie. Went over to my sister's house to pick up my son, and she had 6 videotapes on top of her TV, a carton of cigarettes, a case of beer in the fridge, and did not have my $20. Say,
Okay. Hmm.
yeah. So that's when you start learning the word, that whole full sentence of no.
Right.
Yes, indeed,
And
Norma. No, no is a full
it's a
sentence.
full sentence, right? And they mentioned on the chat here, several people have brought it up, and how the airlines, even the airlines and their announcements know that you should always put yourself first. So look at that. It's mentioned a couple times.
Yes, there you go. Mary Ellen said it. Yes, self-love. Put your oxygen mask on first, then help others. You're the first on the list, then you can assist others, and they will wait for you.
So true.
Hmm.
Yes, absolutely. But you ladies just seem to not have any issue with it at all. Is it from years of practice, or what is it?
The
For me,
boundary setting. Go ahead,
the
Neva.
boundary. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
The boundary issues, it's really funny because we say we may look that way, but sometimes I even question myself, should I go ahead with this and then have to rethink it? So it's not like I have no issues with it at all. Sometimes you sort of go back to wanting to be that person to serve. I I do that still, but then I realize I need to make it my choice to do this at this time, and not because out of guilt or out of obligation or anything else. So I am conscious more about fulfilling everyone else's needs. And can I at this time? So I have to take a step back. Can I at this time take that step forward and help? And if I can't, be able to use that full sentence of no.
And I think sometimes we have to compartmentalize the areas in which we set our boundaries, because we may be stronger in one area and weaker in another. So if we compare the things that we think and feel and do about, per se, like my issue with money with my family, I may be really strong and definitely set on I'm not doing that. We all know that's my catchphrase.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to maybe getting up in the middle of the night to go do something for somebody who can really do it themselves, I'll still do that.
Hmm.
So we still have to figure out where our boundaries are on each area or aspect of our lives, because we may think we're strong and firm on our boundaries, but when you look at the whole picture, I'm sure we all have work to do in some areas.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Rosemary has a very good point there in the chat. It's better to empower others than being the hero.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rosemary, very good.
Yeah. Because then it's coming from that ego thing, right? Of
Hmm.
thinking I'm the only one who can fix this,
Right.
right?
Right.
Which isn't really giving, right? It
Hmm.
really becomes a self-serving thing,
Hmm.
right? Like thinking I'm the only one that can fix this, right? Like I
Right.
have to do it. That's yeah.
That
Hmm.
Mm.
superhero complex coming through.
Mm.
Yes, yes, yes.
But we
Very
need to be the
interesting.
superhero of our own story first.
Yeah. I can honestly tell you that having worked this position that I have with my current job, that releasing and letting go of responsibilities and allowing the next employee who comes in to take on things, I still make, I still hover a little bit because I want to make sure it's being done in a certain way. And I have to trust that that person's got it and let go of what the end result will be so they can now move forward and succeed in their choices and decisions within the workplace.
Yeah. Yeah, that boundary, it's kind of double-edged, right? It's people coming at us, but it's also us pushing out, it's like
Hmm.
it's both things. So, for some people, the problem is not setting the boundary. The problem is that they have too many boundaries, right? And then those boundaries become like walls between them, or they're not porous enough. Sometimes, like some people have trouble setting the boundaries, or those boundaries are too porous. Sometimes the boundaries are too rigid, and people end up, isolating themselves or feeling like, they do have to do it all themselves. How do you feel like you have found the sweet spot? Or have you found the sweet spot?
Well, I'd like to think that I found the sweet spot, but I do sometimes know that people won't come to ask me things because they know already what I'm going to say, so they'll go to Donna. Um, so maybe that's a question that I need to sit with a little bit more because I think that I have firm but flexible boundaries. But sometimes I do still find myself being kind of harsh. So I think I might need to do some reflection on that one.
Nice. And as part of a couple too, there's that other dynamic, right? Because there is how you stand in things, and there's how Donna stands in them. So, like the kids coming to one person or the other, there's that dynamic that you have to play with one another as a couple.
Yeah, because I'm the quit beating your head against the wall and complaining that it hurts person. And, Donna's more of the, oh, I'll sit and listen to your story all day, every day until you're tired of telling it. So somewhere in the middle of that is a sweet spot. And, I think, it takes some work to figure out where that is.
Yeah.
Mm.
What about
You
you,
know,
Rita?
and for me, the sweet spot is in constant adjustment. So for me, it's not like I found it, this is where it is. And for each and every situation, I'm making adjustments to what is the spot in this situation.
Hmm.
Where can I honor myself and still stand in the truth of what needs to be done.
Right.
So the sweet spot is in actually stepping back and thinking it out and deciding whether that would be the best direction to go in.
Yeah. Are there any in your mind boundaries that are never crossed?
Hmm.
I'll throw one out there.
Yeah.
I will. Like physical violence. It almost, I mean, almost doesn't need to be said, but maybe it does because you don't know who's listening, right?
Mm,
Um, that I think for someone ever to put their hands, you know, on me without my permission, or to speak with violence, or that to me is like that's a deal buster right there. There's no
mhm.
conversation if there's going to be anything like that for me.
I see that also as how you're spoken to. And
Mm-hmm.
people will treat you the way that you allow them to treat you. Remember that you're the one who
Mm-hmm.
decides how others are going to treat you. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I think that's true that you have to stand that truth. Oh no, I appreciate what you're saying, but you just don't know me well enough to speak in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to walk away from things, from conversations because, or the people themselves, because I just didn't care for the manner in which they expressed their opinion of me. And their opinion of me was really none of my business.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that that's definitely one that you have to set boundaries and say, this is what I will accept, and this is what I won't accept. I will give you an example of something that just happened this past weekend. I was giving coaching someone and giving them some feedback, and in the middle of my conversation, this person goes like this and picks up their phone. And I said, "You've just completely disregarded my my opinion on the very thing that you were asking for." So here was someone who was just disregarding me altogether. Said, "I'll come back when you're ready to listen to me, and whatever's on this phone seems to be more important." So how many times have we done that, where we disregard people and the technology around us has now foreshadowed anything that you have to say? That's another way of putting boundaries on. My boundary is put the phone away completely and let me have your full attention when we're speaking.
Yeah. Love that. Love that.
And
And
later on, that person came back and just said, "Thank you for that. I realized I was doing the very thing other people do to me."
right, right. Yeah. And it's such a useful tool, right? That idea of projection.
Hmm.
This is how I notice when I'm up against my boundaries. When something shows up, somebody in my face is doing like that, right? It's that mirror. You have to look at it and go, oh, wow, that really pushed my buttons. Do I ever do that to anybody else? And use it as that moment of self-reflection and clearing. Okay, well, if I do, I'm going to be sure to not do that, or
Right.
apologize when I do,
Hmm.
and reboot, right? Then that lets you have compassion for somebody else. Or it may just be a legit, like, wow, now I know where my line is.
Hmm.
That was so whatever. It was so offensive to me that I know that that's a really hard, fast line that I'm not going to let people cross.
Right. And this is so true even nowadays. When we go to sit down, I used to have my kids, when they were a little bit younger and had phones, like, everybody put your phone down. We've become so disassociated with the presence of being there now, to be connected now. And this becomes part of our conversation. So there's a third party in our world of having of any event that you go to. Suddenly this becomes part of it. Go to any event and see how many people have their head like this instead of like this.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Norma? Thanks, Lita. Any hard, fast rules or boundaries for you?
Um, as I was thinking as Lita was speaking of, and I agree totally with you about the physical violence. That's an absolute,
Right there.
definite no. And I'm not a very confrontational person. So if we're having a conversation and you get belligerent, violent, even verbally, conversation stops. I don't do that. I don't carry on conversations like that. You can't hear anything. If you're in your story and I'm in my story and we're yelling back and forth with each other, it's wasted words because I'm not going to hear you and you're not going to hear me. So I don't talk. I generally, like Lita said with
Mm-hmm.
hers, she walks away. I will either just shut down or I'll walk away because, I'm not a person of many words to begin with, and I'm not going to waste them on someone who's not hearing me. So, yeah, I don't engage in that ever. I may, if I feel strongly about something, I'll say what I got to say, and I'm done with it. I'm not going to argue back and forth. I'm not going to,
Right.
do the bantering. It serves no purpose. So I think that is one of my strongest boundaries, actually.
Yeah.
Can we ask to see if we're still frozen? Mary Ellen just said we're all
Yeah.
frozen.
I don't know
Could
if
be on
we're,
her end, but I
yeah,
hear you both clearly.
I hear you
Yeah.
too. So I don't
So
know.
can someone respond and let us know whether you hear us? Rose Marie, if you hear us, just let us know in the chat. We want to make sure we're not frozen or disconnected.
Huh.
Mm.
I was gonna,
I'm gonna put a check.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, you are
Okay,
fine.
we're fine. We're
Okay,
fine. All right. So we're
Okay.
frozen.
good. We're back.
That must be
We're
Denise.
back.
Amen.
Ashe,
Okay.
Yeah.
amen.
Yeah. So anything else on that idea?
I actually, like I mentioned earlier, I said I tell people to quit beating your head against the wall and complaining that it hurts. You know, I've always been a person that people come to and want to talk, even before becoming a practitioner. Um, I just have been that person, I guess. But I will only listen until you decide that you want to change something. Because every week, if you're coming to me with the same story and the same result and the same thing over and over, I'm going to put a stop to it and say, hey, quit beating your head against the wall and complaining that it hurts, because I'm kind of getting tired of hearing it. you know? So, and that was kind of one of the things that I remember when you and Donna were talking to me about becoming a practitioner. And I was like, I don't know, because I can't do some of this stuff. And they said, you guys said it takes all kinds. So I just, I don't let people have diarrhea of the mouth and just kind of just tell all their stuff over and over and over and over and over to me, because a lot of people just like to sit in their story and wallow. They don't want help. They don't want suggestions. They don't want even prayer about it. They just want to just keep living and running through it. And I'm
Right.
not that guy.
Yeah, you're the kind of practitioner I need. Somebody who just tells it straight, right? Don't I don't need to wallow in the story. Just tell it like it is, and that works for me. In the peace building work that I do, is in terms of boundaries. It's like when we have a circle, there's been some kind of harm, a disagreement, something has happened, and you're bringing people together. The first criteria of even having the circle is the desire to make things better, right? People have to want to make things better. If you think you're coming into the circle to tell somebody off or to give them a piece of your mind or however you want to put it, right? Like, you're going to, I don't know what, um, that's a waste of time, right? That's not really serving you. I mean, it gives you an outlet. Maybe you get to spout whatever you want, but it hasn't changed the situation. So I think that's another really important criteria before I get into a discussion. One of those difficult talks with somebody. It's going to be like, do we want to make this better? Because this is not going to be an opportunity for emotional offloading or hurting somebody. Right. So that to me is also a boundary,
hmm
along with name calling. That would be another one that because that goes into the realm of dehumanizing people.
I was just going to say, if it diminishes others
Right.
and
If it
yourself, deprecation is also
Mhm.
not acceptable.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you for saying that, Lita, because so many of us, and even I still catch myself doing it, like calling
Hmm.
myself a bad name, like or saying, "Why did
Right.
you do such a stupid thing?" In my own head, I'm saying things to myself that I would never say to another person,
Aren't we
right?
worse on ourselves than others? And we need
Yes,
to honor ourselves as much as we should honor others.
that's right.
That's where that
So
self love
mhm,
comes in.
Self love. Thank you very much, Norma.
that's right. We don't dehumanize others, and we don't dehumanize ourselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and of course, that's part of self-compassion too, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
to, what is it? The three things, like we talked about it last week about Kristen Neff saying that self compassion requires that we be kind to ourselves,
Mm.
that we acknowledge our common humanity, and that we stay mindful of the moment, not putting too much on it. Like, so you made a mistake. We all make mistakes. It's human, right? It doesn't have to color the rest of your life. So, well, I think that probably is bringing us, that's pretty close to our time anyway. Do you want to say anything in closing, anything you want to leave people with this idea of boundaries and self-love?
Well, I think actually, if we start with the self love and set our own personal boundaries for ourselves, then we'll know what we'll allow and what we won't allow with others. So it takes a lot of inner work to set true boundaries, because if you don't know who you are, what you'll accept, what you like, what you don't like, how will you even know what you'll accept?
Mm. Very good, Norma. I like that. For me, I just like to say that just remind yourself of the true magnificence that you are one with all. And just reminding yourself of that, that there's good in everyone and especially yourself. So, and remember to talk about yourself in a good way.
Nice. Thank you, ladies. And you know what? I didn't even share with people the amazing things that you all do. You know, when I talk about kindness and compassion, and, you know, Norma and Donna have taken, I don't even know how many youth. I know there's a number to it, but, you know, bringing kids into your home and accepting them as your own and helping them to jumpstart into life again. And Lita is like the master of networking and connecting people and making sure folks' needs are met. You two are very, very similar in that way. And so I thank you. And it seems to me like you really prove what Brene Brown said about, you know, boundaries and compassion. Compassion, those two things going together. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yes, love you both.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Alrighty. So there we go. What an awesome conversation. And so it is time for us to go into the next part of our conversation, and that goes into our offering. And so we believe in tithing. We believe in the law of circulation, and that what we put out comes back to us, you know, pressed down and multiplied. And that goes for money, that goes for whatever it is that we might want to give and put out into the world. What you give returns to you. It's just that simple. So you give love, you get love back. You know, you give of your money, you're going to get money back. It keeps it in the flow. And so I'm just going to invite you to share if you feel led to share anything with the Center for Spiritual Living. We greatly appreciate that. An exchange of energy is always welcome. And let me find that little banner, because we got a couple of ways that we make it easy for people to donate. There is a number scrolling across the bottom of your screen, as well as our email address, not email, but website, cslocala.org/donate, or text to tithe at 352-320-5110. And when you text that number from your smartphone, after you set it up, all you have to do is put in the amount of money you would like to send to CSL Ocala. You hit send and it goes from your account to ours. And we really, really appreciate it. We'll be having some updates as far as the center goes and how we will be returning in person and what that looks like as far as our online presence, how it will affect it, if it will affect it. But all of these are things that we are talking about at the center. And we just appreciate your continued love and support, either in joining us in person or again in supporting us financially. So here is the affirmation, and I invite you to make it your own. It is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am so very grateful. And I am very grateful to be part of this spiritual community. I'm grateful that you took the time to listen and hang out with us today. I am grateful for my friends Norma and Lita and that wonderful conversation and of how to create the boundaries that allow us to love ourselves so that we can be our best for others. And so let's see what else we've got here. I think there's one more thing that we need to do, and that would be our closing prayer. Yes, and we need to post the Zoom link. I wonder if someone in our community can do that for us, to post the Zoom link. We'll be going on Zoom afterward for anybody who may be joining us for the first time. If you're actually in real time, what we do is go on to Zoom after the call in a more private conversation, and we will talk about the topic at hand, and we will do prayer requests, and we'll just catch up with one another and just love on one another. Send us your prayer requests. We'd be glad to hold you in love and light, and do some treatment for you. So let's see. We still don't have the Zoom link. You're going to have to look after the fact. But it's the same one that it is always every week. It's the same Zoom link. So with that, we will go into our prayer for protection. This comes from James Dillett Freeman from Unity, which is kind of like our sister organization in New Thought. And it goes like this: the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. I just pray and affirm that all is well in your world. And if it's not okay yet, that means it's not the end. You know that. Just hang in there, and those problems or seeming obstacles will turn into stepping stones to your greater yet to be. Happy Halloween and have a fabulous week. Hope to catch up with you either on Zoom or next week. Love and blessings. Take care.